All right. Well, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. My name is Rich Severson. I'm the Senior Global Solutions Engineer at Stratodesk. And with today's webinar, we just wanted to make sure for those that are potentially new customers or people that are unaware of what Stratodesk is, give you an idea of what Stratodesk is, what we do, who we are, etc. And for those that are existing Stratodesk customers, make sure that you're aware of all the different options that we provide to be able to enable your users to be able to work from home given today's circumstances. As you might imagine, I've spent the last couple of weeks assisting customers be able to move their on-premises employees to be home agents or home users. So we just want to make sure that everybody understands how to do that and all the different options that we provide as far as security and access. So with that, I'm assuming everybody can hear me, so we'll go ahead and get started. So who is Stratodesk? Stratodesk is probably, if you will, the #1 fastest growing endpoint management and endpoint software in the country, given the fact that we can do, or globally, I should say, given the fact that we can do both x86 and ARM platforms as well as IoT. So it's a Linux-based operating system that's built from the ground up, if you will, to be extremely secure and enable connections to multiple different DAS and VDI platforms. The different products that we have No Touch OS or No Touch operating system. Like I mentioned, that goes on either x86 or ARM. That means the Pi devices. And that is the software that you install on the endpoints. And those endpoints can be repurposed laptops, repurposed thin clients, whatever types of devices that you want to be able to use to give your users access to your VDI or to your infrastructure. No Touch Center, in my opinion, is the most important part of that. And that is No Touch Center is the platform that allows you to manage and control all of those endpoints. Because, to be able to give remote users access to the VDI infrastructure is one thing, but if they have problems or need assistance, to be able to help them is probably more important. And that's what No Touch Center allows you to do. No Touch Go, with No Touch Go, basically what that is that is a pre-configured, preloaded USB device that has No Touch OS installed on it, and it's pre-configured to some extent, meaning that you can ship No Touch Go USB devices that are configured for live boot out to your end users. Those end users then can set up their machine to be able to live boot from that USB device. It would then launch No Touch operating system, be a secure environment, locked down. You could have complete control and have it report to the management platform and be able to provision and remote control and assist those users from your infrastructure. No Touch IoT, it's No Touch operating system or No Touch OS, but it's been optimized, if you will, to be able to support IoT types of devices where we can do subscription and publishing and control those devices that are used for production control systems. No Touch Cloud. What No Touch Cloud is No Touch Cloud can either be your cloud or it can be a cloud that's hosted by Stratodesk. It is No Touch Center that is cloud hosted, again by yourself or by us, that allows you to be able to remote control and manage those devices globally around the world, wherever they may be. Some companies like to have their No Touch Center on premises where they can control everything inside. Because of security purposes, some customers prefer to host their own instance of No Touch Center in their own cloud, or like I said, we can actually host it for you for a small nominal fee to be able to do that. Okay. What No Touch or Stratodesk Cloud Extension is Stratodesk Cloud Extension is kind of a hybrid, if you will, meaning that you can have your No Touch Center management platform inside your data center or inside your secure infrastructure, and then you can set the cloud extension outside of the infrastructure so that the endpoints can then communicate to that and still have control. And that way you only have one device going through your infrastructure, which is much more secure, I guess, if you will, from a public management control perspective. Okay, and I'll show you how that gets set up. So the different platforms that we support, obviously we support many different VDI or DAS types of platforms. We support VMware, Citrix, Windows Virtual Desktop, WVD, Amazon Workspaces, Nutanix, Microsoft RDS, or even simple browser connections. We find that many external employees today may just need a web browser to be able to access their internal applications or the DAS types of applications simply via a browser. So how do we enable remote work? We do that with No Touch Center, like I said, the ability to manage that, manage the No Touch operating system devices with cloud, And I think probably one of the things that we wanted to point out today is using the VPN support and how that works. And then, of course, No Touch Go to be able to use those devices. Okay. So this goes a little bit more about the cloud extension, what it is and how it sets up. It's like it says here, there's 3 easy steps and 3 different options of way of deploying it, right? You can deploy it where it's completely on-premise, where it's cloud hosted and exposed in the DMZ, the different options to do that. But the key thing about the way that it is set up, it is set up so that the endpoints communicate with the cloud extension, and then the only thing that's reporting into your data center is the cloud extension itself. That way you mitigate the risk of having 1, 2, tens, hundreds of thousands of endpoints going through your cloud extension or through your infrastructure. Okay. This is the No Touch Go. It's a USB based device. Like I said, you can pre-configure it so that you just ship it out to the devices. You can set it up for either live boot or to do an install, whichever you prefer. Most organizations we find like to set it up for a live boot only, where they can send it out to the users. The users change their machine to boot from a USB device. They boot it up. It's pre-configured to connect to the No Touch Center Management Platform. When it connects to the No Touch Center Management Platform, you then have complete control. You can configure the VDI connection. You can remote assist the users if they need assistance, and you can make sure that everybody's working and has the ability to do the tasks that they need to be able to do. Okay. So with the VPN support, right, these are the different VPN support options that are currently available via No Touch Center. So we find that people are asking, as they're moving and migrating users to home agent or home users, how can we turn on or enable VPN support? And I'll show you where those are at. And obviously for the saving time, we're not going to go through setting up all these different options. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of where those connections are and how to enable them if they want to do that, right? So we have Cisco AnyConnect, OpenConnect, F5, Checkpoint, Fortinet, and OpenVPN are all available today. Okay, so I hope that should cover just about everybody what their needs are. Okay, with that, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch screens and set up to show you where these things are, and we'll talk a little bit about No Touch Center, and I'll show you how that works. So with No Touch Center, let's go ahead and bring that to the forefront. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and connect to the virtual appliance. So No Touch Center, it is a virtual appliance that you can download from the Stratodesk website. And obviously with the demo, you can go ahead and get that. And Christoph just asked if we can get the presentation. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get the presentation out to our marketing team, and they'll make sure that it gets sent out to everybody that wants it available to them. Okay. So again, via the demo link, obviously, if you don't already have access to the No Touch products, with the demo link, you can go ahead and download the No Touch virtual appliance. And it is a virtual appliance that you can stand up either in ESX or Hyper-V or whichever hypervisor is your choice. So you may have to go through the disk conversions, just depending on what type of hypervisor you're using. But it is a virtual appliance. It's relatively easy. It'll take you probably 5 minutes to stand up. Once you've got it stood up, the key thing to note about it is it does come with a host name of TCMGR, which anything that runs No Touch OS will try to resolve. So if a No Touch OS device can resolve TCMGR, it will automatically report in. And we'll cover a little bit more about that in just a few moments. But I think the things that I wanted to show here is the fact that, this is the configuration side of the virtual appliance, how you'd set it up, what its host name is, time zone, proxy settings. You may want to know what different ports of the firewall are enabled or in use. And this is shown here so you can determine, like example, if you were using remote agents or remote users, you're probably not going to use the Pixie service. So you could go ahead and turn off the Pixie service. So again, it's an easy way to configure the firewall properties for the appliance itself. The cloud extension, again, this is what I was talking about a few minutes ago, where you could put the cloud extension into your DMZ and then have your endpoints report to the cloud extension and then have full control of those devices. It's relatively easy. You simply turn on the cloud extension mode. I'm not going to do it in this instance because obviously we're in the middle of doing this. But then the way that it works is once you turn that on, you would go to the data center instance of the appliance and get the public key. And I'll show you where that public key is. So you just then copy that public key and paste it in here, and then you would establish the connection between the cloud extension and the master No Touch Center. Okay. So that's how you enable cloud extension. Relatively easy. It gives you the ability to suddenly manage remote users with minimal risk through your infrastructure. Okay. So with that, now I'm going to jump to the other side of the appliance, which is No Touch Center. So No Touch Center, again, is the administration interface of the appliance that allows you to manage No Touch OS endpoint devices. And I'll go ahead and log in. Once I'm logged in, there we go, we got a connection error. Once I'm logged in, then you see the main interface of No Touch Center. And I'm going to click the navigate to make sure we're logged in. Let's create a new connection here because it doesn't like what we're doing. Typical of when you're trying to do something that things won't always go perfect. All right. So now what I'm going to do, well, I apologize here real quick, guys. Let's go do this. Get everything squared away here. Let's see if it's going to allow us to connect properly this time. All right, now we're in. Let's try that again. So back to the cloud extension configuration parameters. As I told you earlier, when you go ahead and go to set up the cloud extension, it's going to ask you for the public API key, and that's relatively easy to get. You just go to configuration information for the No Touch Center, and you scroll down, and down here you'll see that there is the public API key that if you wanted to be able to turn that on, you just copy the key right there, the SSH public cloud extension key. You'd copy that long key. Obviously, it's relatively long. I don't think anybody is going to be able to hack that. So that would give you the ability to copy that key and paste it over into the virtual appliance to enable the cloud extension. Okay. So with that, let's talk about No Touch Center itself, the different ways that you can manage and configure and set up devices. By default, anything that comes into No Touch Center goes into a group called unassigned, which gives you the ability to, if you will, bring devices into No Touch Center, but have them where they get zero configuration information. So that way you don't have to worry about, do they have the connection to my VDI? Do they have the connection to my infrastructure? All right. So with that, then I could then go ahead and select that device, and I can move that device, and I'm going to go ahead and move it to my devices in this case, and go ahead and say move, and it'll move that device. Now, once I move that device into the group called My Devices, by default, it is going to inherit all the parameters for My Devices, so it get those group settings. So right now, I've just automatically profiled that device with anything that happens to be under My Devices for profile settings. That's all relatively easy stuff, guys. So I don't want to go through all the different connection parameters and capabilities. This is more about how to enable the home agents in remote work. So what I've done is I've created a group called remote, right? And then what I can do within the remote group, and again, you could do this with any group, and you could set up and you could have multiple groups, etc. But the things that are important to be able to note about this, right? So what I've done is I've taken devices. So like example, if I went to this device and I went and I looked at the management URL, the management URL of this device, the No Touch Center that it connects to, is based on this IP address right here. But if I wanted to move this device to an external user, obviously it wouldn't be able to resolve 192.168, right? So what I've done is I have the ability to forward my No Touch Center via the DNS alias name. So all I've done is I went and copied this, right? This No Touch alias, and then I could go to this device and I could change the non-standard management URL, paste it in here, reboot this device, and this device now would be able to connect and be managed from my external side of my No Touch Center. okay? So now in doing that, I would have just moved that device outside of my network and given me the ability to manage it remotely, even though it's external to my network, okay? I hope that helps. That's one step. That's obviously the most important thing is to, if I had somebody that's on premises, in other words, they're in my network today, right? They've got an internal address. I could create a external facing URL for my no touch center, go to the group settings or to that individual device and go to the non-standard management URL, paste that new management URL there, announce to that group or to those devices, simply going actions, announce. That would tell anything that's in that group that it's going to have a new management URL, reboot those devices, and they would now show up and they would have a non-standard management URL that looks like this. And as you see, they are checking in and reporting. Even though they have a 192 address being internal, they're reporting via an external interface. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a minute, take a breath. Is there any questions about that itself? If you have any questions, just go ahead and chat them, put them in the chat dialogue. There's a couple of us here that can go ahead and answer. So, but it's literally that easy to move a device from on-prem to an external facing as long as you have an external URL. Okay, so there's no questions coming in. Nick said, why not just move the devices to the remote group? And you could do that. Absolutely. You could do it either way. I just wanted to make sure that people understand the key about understanding where the non-standard management URL is. Okay, because just moving devices, it's important that they know where to make that actual change in setting. Okay, so with that, so let's talk about the VPN services, right? So again, the VPN services are there. So you just go under services, and then you could go ahead and scroll down, and you'll see the different options that we have for the different VPN services, right? So there's Cisco AnyConnect, OpenConnect, and OpenVPN, and all of those are readily available, like I said, within No Touch Center. The others can then be added via extensions or event scripts. Okay, so you can simply turn on the VPN services, and the way that this works is anything that is checkmarked is set specifically at this level. In this case, as you see, I'm not going to go ahead and start those services, but I could simply turn on, say I want to start the Cisco AnyConnect VPN service, hit the checkbox and turn that on. Okay, so those services are already available today. The other thing regarding remote workers that you might have interest in is things like Teams. So if I were to go to extension, you'll see down here I have the ability to put in a Microsoft Teams URL. So I could hit this checkbox, go ahead and choose the file and the URL where my Teams installation files are, and effectively, if you will, I would be loading or adding Teams to my No-Touch OS instance. And the nice thing about that is the Teams integration works really well. So you can actually run Teams locally, be connected to a VDI instance, and still get your information into your VDI instance, even though you're running Teams locally. Okay. So what else? I think those are the key things that I really wanted to talk about. Oh, the other thing, even though these devices are remote home agent devices, effectively, like I said, reporting from outside of my network, I still have the ability to shadow those devices. Just, because obviously if you want to be able to communicate, or if a user was having problems, you'd be able to reach out and assist and help them, right? So I can remote shadow directly to those devices, even though they're quote unquote off network. All right. So Nick Casagrande is asking Teams for x86. Nick, we'll have to confirm for you. I believe it is currently for x86. I think the Pi integration of Teams is underway, but we'll have to confirm for you. Okay. With that, that's pretty much most of the things that I wanted to show you. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that, with No Touch Center, you have the ability to host it on-prem. You have the ability to host it in the cloud yourself. We can host it for you, or you can obviously do the hybrid with the cloud extension where you could have it on-prem and publicly facing without having to expose any of your information. So that's regarding the No Touch management platform. Regarding No Touch OS, I wanted to make sure everybody was aware that the different VPN solutions are there, the ability to remote support, remote shadow, configure the VPNs, and how to change the URL so that those devices, if they're existing devices, how to be able to move them outside of your network. All right, so with that, we'll wait a few moments for questions. Christoph. So Christoph is asking regarding CALs, extensions, costs, those kinds of things. So if you're moving your devices that, well, let's say that they're already no-touch managed devices, there is no additional cost from us unless you're going to use the cloud extension. And then there is a cost per endpoint. But regarding RDS CALs or Citrix connection licenses, VMware connection licenses, those kinds of things. Obviously, that's not controlled by us. So the only additional cost would be if you wanted to enable the Cisco AnyConnect, because obviously that is licensed by Cisco. And then, if, like I said, the cloud extension. Okay. Any other additional questions? How long does the trial last? Well, certainly regarding the trial, we can set that up for however long you'd like. I believe by default it is 30 days, but certainly if you needed an extension to that, you could contact our salespeople and we can extend the licenses if needed. Certainly, you know, right now there's a lot of questions about what's going on as far as the global pandemic and how that's going to be managed. And certainly we are looking to make sure that we can enable our customers or new customers to be able to do that. So if you have any questions, contact one of our sales guys. They'll be happy to help you. We have a question. Have upgraded all of the type of connections to the latest versions of No Touch OS. Not sure if I understand the question, but if you're asking the different VDI or client type connections in the latest version of No Touch OS, as far as I know, everything has the latest versions. Yes, you can use your own USB devices. We do have the ability to, obviously, you can download the No Touch OS on a zip file. And then once you have that zip file, there's actually a create USB utility there that you can then push that information and create a bootable USB. So you don't need to buy the physical USB devices from us. But obviously, if you're going to create your own, it would require a license for the No Touch OS. Okay. Any other questions? We'll wait one more minute in silence. Hope everybody's doing well. So while we're waiting for that, one last thing, and I'll show regarding remote. As you see here, obviously, like I said, I was able to remote shadow the device. I can also collect the support information from that device. I can just click on web access, and this will give me access to the endpoint just as if I was sitting at the keyboard and mouse. And the important thing about that is if a user was having a problem and I needed to be able to collect the support logs, I could then just connect to the device, log in, and then I'd have the ability to collect the logs and all the configuration about that endpoint to be able to provide that information to the Stratodesk support team. Okay, and that's right there. Right there's the support file. Also, if you are creating your own live USB device types, you may want to configure an endpoint device, and this is where you would collect a pre-configured config.cfg file to put on the USB device. Okay? All right, with that, I don't see any more questions coming in, so I'd like to thank everybody. Thank you for your time today, and hopefully this was helpful. Have a great day, everybody.